You must step up, as the thumbnail says. You must step up when speaking about the Juventus midfielders. And I feel like we're beginning to enter an era where it's not where are the defenders, it's where are the midfielders. Now, anyways, I saw something against Torino which I liked, but at the same time I didn't like, and I feel like it's only right for me to sit down and chat to every single one of you guys from the top of my head, just thinking out loud. Okay. Now, the game against Torino, and like you can see in the thumbnail, from Thuram, I've got Locatelli, I've got McKennie, I've got Koopmeiners. So what does it mean? I really want to speak on Juve's midfield, yeah, and I want to speak on like how I feel like the board haven't really aided any coach in terms of their recruitment, but I'll explain it to you guys step by step. Let's just start off number one with make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. The sacrifices I'm doing. I'm on holiday, but I made sure to record this video before I left to give you guys content whilst I'm sat chilling on the beach. I'm not even really in the beach. I'm in a very cold country. But anyway, let's get straight into the video. Look, against Torino, Juventus had about 75% of the ball, which was ridiculously impressive, and it reminded me of the Thiago Motta days where I used to sit down, put on the camera and be like, guys, 75% of the ball, but minimal intensity, guys, 75% of the ball, but 5 shots on goal, guys, 75% of the ball, but hardly any goal-scoring opportunities. Now, when it comes to Spalletti, like, this is something that I saw against Torino, which is like the 3-2-5. It was nice in some moments, like you can see Cambiaso's hugging the flanks whilst Yildiz tucks inside, and then McKennie's doing it on the opposite flank. There's nothing wrong with this setup. It's very offensive. It suits the modern game. But when your team becomes programmed to play in a way to retain the ball and they scrap the vertical passes, which we saw on the Tudor, your possession will automatically go up. Juventus, when it came to Tudor, they were averaging about 55%. Spalletti's 2 games in the Serie A, they're averaging 68%. So it already shows a growth, but more a change of intent, where Spalletti is now telling them, don't be spamming crosses into the box because you end up surrendering possession. Don't always be trying the 40, 50, 60-yard pass over the top, long into Vlahovic or wherever. No, play ground football. Let's start off with Koopmeiners. Koopmeiners, he's been very progressive, and he's brought something to this Juve backline, which helps a lot, which is now Locatelli. You don't need to drop deep because I will find you in midfield. Like, of course, he's not a progressive demon, but let's be honest. When you look at that Juve backline, hardly anybody is progressive. The moment you add somebody like Koopmeiners, who's comfortable playing out of the back, he's not really pressured. It's a relatively simplified role, which is what Koopmeiners wants. He's making passes, and he's really impressed me with his passing range. Now, you don't need Locatelli to drop deep. Now, you don't need Thuram to always drop deep in order to carry the ball 30, 40 yards and then feed it into somebody like Yildiz. Now, they could actually play like midfielders. And like, this might sound crazy. Koopmeiners being progressive at the back might expose Juve's midfielders in one department where I feel like both of them lack. You're now looking at Locatelli and saying, all right, cool. As much as I feel like, in my opinion, like they call me the Locatelli Glazer. I've seen it in the comments. Anyways, as much as I love Locatelli, and I think dropping into phase 1, he's so progressive. He's so good on the ball. Like, sometimes I read you guys the stats about how progressive Locatelli is, but I see them with my own 2 eyes. Like, that's why I'm always intrigued to see, like, hey, how many progressive passes has he made? Wow, 31 against Torino. I saw them. Like, I saw that impact. Now, with Koopmeiners taking on that responsibility, I feel like Locatelli and Thuram's responsibilities have now changed because now they can play in the second phase. And if you play in the second phase, you've definitely got license to join the third phase and help the strikers, help the wide players. But what I mean by helping them over there, we can turn around and say, listen, just help them by retaining the ball. But let's be honest, you don't win league games. You don't go far in the Champions League with midfielders that are just good at retaining possession. And as much as I love Locatelli, like I'm one of his biggest of fans, this might be the first time where I sit down and say, Hermano, I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more. Can you do it for me one more time? Thuram, I need a little bit more. I need you to roll it back to the Fiorentina days of last season. My point is, if now Koopmeiners is taking on the responsibility of progressing the ball, Locatelli and Thuram's responsibilities in the second and the third phase have now completely changed, which is, okay, get the ball to the attacking players, get it to Conceição, to Zegrova, get it to McKennie, get it to Openda, Vlahovic, David, get it to Kenan Yildiz. But that's 50% of your job. The other 50%, can you make a run into the box and get onto a cutback? Can you get into the box and score a header? Can you score some goals from outside the box? Rather than just being retainers of the ball, which, don't get me wrong, is great because it allows you to sustain pressure. Rather than just being retainers, can you be chance creators. And this is where I am looking at Locatelli and I am looking at Thuram. Even if it was McKennie to play in midfield, and I'm now looking at them and saying, you guys now need to show me a different level to your bag. Can you show me against the low block when you receive the ball 25, 30 yards out from goal, rather than making that 5-yard progressive pass and looking at Conceição and Yildiz and saying, you go for it, brother. You go and find an opportunity to create an opportunity for this team. No, you guys now need to also like carry the load. You know what I mean? You need to chip in. Like as midfielders, depending on which zone you play in, fair enough. Like Locatelli, the reason why I've always defended him is because he's always played so deep. So when he plays deep, I'm like, your job is just to get the ball higher up the field. That's it. But with now Koopmeiners taking on that responsibility, I'm now looking at Thuram and Locatelli and saying, you guys are now receiving the ball into dangerous areas, just like I saw against Torino, just like I saw against Cremonese. And I need you guys to be a bit more decisive, if you know what I mean. Like, I think with Juve, and I think we're really beginning to see it game after game after game, there is this heavy reliance on Kenan Yildiz. And I think now Yildiz has this reputation in the Serie A where I am the chance creator, I am the goal scorer, like I am Mr. Dynamism, I am the guy that can decide a game for Juve. But as much as I think Kenan Yildiz is an amazing player and he's the star boy of this team, you put a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And don't get me wrong, when you play for a top team like Juve, you have to step up to this pressure. But it's a little bit unfair when you bear in mind like there's still 10 outfield players that can also chip in. And in my opinion, the best way to create opportunities is centrally. Overload the centre and either pass it out wide, overload the centre, drag the opposition higher up the field, in behind to your striker. Those nice little intricate passes, the little 1-2s. Like, I'm trying to compare it to his Napoli Spalletti team. I feel like Anguissa and Zielinski were great at it. Like Zielinski, you give him the ball in those tight areas. He was a very good ball carrier, but he was good in those tight areas. He can spot a pass. He can score you a goal from outside of the box. He can, like, pass a ball through the eye of a needle, if you know what I mean. And this is where I am now looking at Thuram and Locatelli and saying, listen, for the past year, I've always said, listen, they drop deep to progress the ball. The problem is, Juve don't really have a player centrally, like in that roaming number 10 position that can now play make. I do look at Spalletti and say, listen, if this is how you want to play the game, and eventually you do move into a 4-3-3, like common sense tells me you go Locatelli, Thuram, and Yildiz in the 10, because Yildiz can bring you that creative spark in that roaming number 10 area within those congested areas. But if he looks at Yildiz and says, listen, I want you to be my Kvaratskhelia and I want you to play out wide and maintain width and put crosses into the box and cut inside and shoot on your favoured right foot, then Juventus don't really have a number 10. If they don't have a number 10, somebody is going to have to step up and carry that mantle. Somebody is going to have to show a different bag to their game. Somebody is going to have to like diversify their game. And this is where I do look at Thuram and Locatelli and say, guys, fair enough. Maybe from now till the summer, Juve can address it in the summer. But for the time being, the season is ongoing. Juve still need to win games in the Champions League. Juve still need to win games in the Serie A. You guys need to show a different bag. I mentioned Thuram, Fiorentina. You guys remember last year, Thuram, Fiorentina? That little flick in between the center, in between the defender's legs. That's what I need to see more of Thuram, where now you can be the decider. You can be the person that has an impact in the final third outside of Kenan Yildiz, Cambiaso, Conceição, Zegrova. No, you. Don't get me wrong. You do your job by breaking duels, stopping transition, progressing the ball. But in the final third, be a decider. Locatelli, I don't think he's like gifted in terms of like the flair and the trickery. He's not really that type of player. Like he's not really explosive in his carrying of the ball. But Locatelli, can you show me that bag where you can put the ball into the back of the net from about 15, 20 yards? Can you like spot a pass when you're like within 15, 20 yards of the goal? Like, can you? Because this is what you expect. And like, I want to compare it to maybe like a few other teams in the Serie A. Like the example that I always go to is like Inter. Like in Inter for me, you've got the Calhanoglu who is responsible for spraying passes. But where Inter are like pretty fortunate is the fact that they've got a Bastoni that can step into midfield. But Bastoni is decisive. Have you guys seen Bastoni's wide range of passing? Have you guys seen Bastoni's crosses? Bastoni's little intricate passes? And this is a centre back, okay? Then you've got Barella who can like step into midfield. Barella can score you a goal from outside the box. He can create you an opportunity. I don't think like he's having an amazing season. But my point is, you could see when it comes to their trio in midfield, they're kind of different to one another. They can all chip in with progressing the ball, but they can all chip in deciding games in the final third. Locatelli, Thuram, I genuinely love both of you guys, but I got my eyes on you. You're everything that I see. Yeah, my point is, I got my eyes on you from now till the end of the season because let's be honest, like as a player to grow, sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you need to do something different to what you've been programmed to do for the past few years. And when it comes to Locatelli in particular, he gets a lot of criticism because a lot of people like to compare him to like the Pirlos, the Pjanics, like, oh, he doesn't chip in with the goals. I always sympathised and said it's because he plays so deep for the lack of ball progression centre halves. But now you've got yourself Koopmeiners who's taken on that responsibility. You guys now need to take on the responsibility. And it's kind of crazy how life works because Koopmeiners was signed to be that offensive midfielder to bring in the goals and chance creation. Like it's like life is moving backwards. He's now gone to a centre back, and Locatelli and Thuram, in my opinion, need to start chipping in more in the final third, just from now till the end of the season. Of course, I would love for Spalletti maybe to put Yildiz in that position, but I think the lack of left wingers means he has to play Yildiz out wide, unless maybe he rolls the dice on Openda. But I don't look at Openda and say he is a chance creator out wide. I probably would look at him more and say you're just a goal scorer that's playing out wide on the left. Love to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys on another one.